Welcome to the Business of Pharmacy podcast, where we explore the business of pharmacy through candid, in-depth conversations with the industry's top leaders. Every Monday, tune in for insights and stories you won't find anywhere else. I'm your host, Mike Kelzer. Hey listeners, before we start, I want to tell you about MatchRx, who is sponsoring this episode. I've been with MatchRx for probably a dozen years. You're likely familiar with them, but for those of you that may not be, MatchRx is the online marketplace where independent pharmacies can buy and sell overstock prescription meds. There's over 7,000 pharmacies, including mine, in this vibrant community. You can manage everything easily with their website and mobile app, and if you need any help, they'll train you in under 5 minutes. It's fast, simple, and reliable. And MatchRx is fully DSCSA compliant, so you can trust it. I use MatchRx for my inventory needs, and I'd recommend you use them too. Visit MatchRx.com today and tell them I sent you. Chief, for those that haven't come across you online, introduce yourself and tell our listeners what we're talking about today.
My name is Dr. Chirag Patel. I just go by Chi, which is a little easier to say, but that's what all my friends call me. I am an entrepreneur and business owner, pharmacist here in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. Being a pharmacist and a pharmacy owner, we quickly realized that there's other opportunities out there for our community. Today, we're going to talk about some of that.
Now, Chi, as an independent pharmacy owner, I say, I wish I would have gone out and done a few other things, maybe outside of pharmacy, for better or for worse. But Chi, as you and I have talked before, you're from Indian descent, right?
Correct, yep.
Do you have a leg up on me already?
I would call it a leg up because I think a lot of us, at least in the pharmacy space, who come from a certain background, I won't just say it's Indian, there's a lot of different backgrounds and it can be American too. We grew up with entrepreneurial spirit because our parents owned a business. Myself personally, my parents owned a motel, so I grew up part of my childhood in a motel. So when I'm on dial-up talking to my friends on AOL, someone comes into the front desk, I got to sell them a room. So I realized real quick, this is the value of our room. If they walk away from here just because I'm too busy, that affects us. So from an early standpoint, even before I got into post-secondary education, I was already in the entrepreneurial spirit.
What is that about some of the immigrant families of being an entrepreneur, maybe owning a business, hotel, different things, versus not? Because I'm lucky if I could have a street sweeping job or something like that, much less opening something. Seems like 2 times, 4 times the difficulty of actually starting a business. What is in the culture of actually owning a business as an entrepreneur?
I think there's many points, and I've thought about it before as well, was a lot of us who are first generation born here, like I said, I was born in Canada. Our parents are immigrants. So where they came from, they're either not able to do what they can over there for financial reasons or because the opportunities are not there. But also it's very competitive. If you're from one of these other countries, I use India as example, with 1 billion, I don't know what the population is now, but it's over 1 billion people. Just imagine those small little towns and you're just one of multi-million people there. So it's very difficult to make it. So coming over here, you already have that drive that you put everything into your ability to get over here and you're ready to do it for yourself. And when you work for someone else, I think a lot of people originally, maybe they start out that way to get their basis going, to have enough capital to do their own business. They realize that, hey, our work ethic is stronger than your average 9-to-5er or your average business, person here. And so when you have that, you kind of figure out, like, can I do this for myself and make the changes I want to see in my community by doing it this way? Or do I just stick to it and do the safe way out, which is this way? I think in my community that I can speak for, we have that drive, that risk assessment. And I don't think we really see the risk so much because we know if you work hard enough, you're going to achieve what you're trying to get out there for. And at least if you fail, you failed on your own accord, right? So I think that's the biggest part. There's also the fact that, in a lot of these countries, there's just so many different people who you're competing against, like I mentioned. And it's a little bit easier here. I always say that when I came to America, I sensed, coming to Charlotte, which is a smaller city, it's starting to blossom now, but there was like a few pharmacies. There was like one place to do this, one place to do that. And so there's room for opportunity in these different places if you find it and you find your niche that can kind of help your community.
It's sort of a filtering out process too. The people that are here may be left because they have, I don't mean to paint a broad picture, but they might have bigger dreams, bigger goals, more energy to get over here. Then that flows forward into the entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, it does. And just being able to come over here and see, I can't even live it because I'm from Canada. So for me, my struggle was the cold weather, but it's a little bit different. But for our parents, our families are very close. So we know everything they went through. I mean, I've been to India multiple times. A lot of us go back and we see, because we have our villages still there. And so we see how people who are our age are living and what they don't have and maybe what they could have. But when we walk down the street here, you don't see kids walking down the street begging for money. You see that in these countries. And you see it in Mexico, you see it in Central America, you see it in South America. So it's not just in Asia, but you see that. And that really hits home for a lot of people because it can be a lot worse. So when you're willing to be able to put in, and I would say this too, the same amount of work you'd put into some of these countries, you're getting nickeled and dimed and you're getting paid a lot less than you would be if you came here. I'll give you an example. I was reading Phil Knight, the Nike founder's book, and I found it interesting because I've always thought, why do they do sweatshops and why don't they pay these people? You're a billion-dollar company. And they point out a very valid point there is that they were overpaying these people in the sweatshops, and they realized that the government was like, you're paying these people more than we're paying our doctors, and you need to cut that out. And so that really hits it home. Like the salary in a lot of countries is very low. And when you come here for the same thing, you're getting paid a lot more. It's definitely a reason to come here for the American dream, as we say it. Our experiences and our perception really dictate how we live our life and how we view our future. And I think for a lot of us, that's kind of identified for us early on in age. So that's where it comes from.
All right. So now, Chi, here's the problem. I own an independent pharmacy. So do you. And I think I can speak on behalf of all of us owners that at some point we feel like we've gone from entrepreneur and owner into just being like the PBM's employee kind of, because they've taken away the freedom and they've taken away the profit and that kind of stuff. We used to have a barber shop next door, and I didn't want to be a barber, but you're kind of jealous of them just having a cash business and not dealing with this or that. And nearly any pharmacist I've talked to has seemed to have had that dream of a little bit different thing to get back into that ownership role, because it's very oppressive. It's cool though, because you've done a lot of that. I know pharmacy is your bread and butter, or at least that's who you are. But the things that we were talking about, you've gone out and have done some of those things.
I don't look at myself like a pharmacy owner. I look at myself as an entrepreneur or a business owner first. If you own a business, you probably understand how to run other businesses. It's just about understanding the metrics and how things work in different sectors. So you can do other things. That's the number one limitation. People think, oh, I'm a pharmacy owner, I have pharmacy, I can't do other stuff. And that's a problem to begin with. You're limiting yourself. For us, we've branched out into many different things. Many are medically related, which is a benefit to us because we have a patient base. I always look at it outside of the box. When I'm driving around wherever, I'm going to the beach, going to get groceries, going to a sports game. Every time I look around, I'm looking at things, whether I'm thinking it or not, I'm seeing businesses, and my mind is always going, is this something I could bring into what we're doing currently in one of my businesses? Is this, oh, I went to Chick-fil-A and the service was great. These guys should be running the airport. How can we improve our efficiency in some manner, right? I think the business owner's mind never really stops. You're always going. There's not like a 9-to-5 period that way. And I think that's what we benefit from and what we enjoy. But I don't think we should be putting ourselves in a box of just being able to do one thing. We do a lot of things that I'd say a lot of the other progressive pharmacy owners that I've met at conventions do, things like compounding, clinical work, rapid testing, telemedicine, wellness program. We've got into a lot of things that have helped our community, but are also financially fruitful. So these are the things that we've kind of gotten into. Other things we have kind of ventured into based off opportunity that's been in our communities has been, one, we've opened a med spa. So a med spa is a foreign space for a lot of us pharmacy owners, but a lot of it has to do with similar stuff that we're already recommending stuff for. Med spas are all cash based. If you really think about it, there's not really any insurance involved with it. and you're providing a service for people who are willing to pay for this service because it's a beautification process, really. So we've kind of dabbled into that stuff with my sister, who's a physician. And so it kind of opens things up for us.
Where does that come together? Med spa. Is some of it like massages and beauty stuff? It's a combo term.
Yeah, so it's actually considered called a medical spa and aesthetics. So that's usually shortened to med spa. But med spa really entails to all these processes and procedures they do that are generally medical grade. A lot of med spas are run by a nurse and just overseen, but ours is run by a physician, which is more rare, where we do hair removal through lasers.
I gotcha.
All that sort of stuff. There's a whole bunch of different machines and procedures you can do.
Kind of beauty stuff that needs medical care or intervention, sort of.
Rather than put people on these medications that are really expensive or take a long time to work, these are short, quick bursts, and they work, and it's long-term. You have the short-term things like Botox and fillers that everybody's getting right now anyways, but all these things really couple down to it. I mean, you see most med spas are doing weight loss now, and that's something we're all doing in the pharmacy. I hope every pharmacy owner is doing that.
You mentioned you have a bodybuilder as a partner. Is that right?
Yeah, he's one of our pharmacists, actually. He's a pharmacist, a bodybuilder in one. And, I thought about it a while back. I was like, well, you need to get me in shape. And so we started this process like a year ago, and we said, how do we break this down? I've done so many things in the past that didn't work. Let's figure this out, because if it works for me, I have a lot of other friends who don't have quite as good physique, and they could probably benefit from this. Rather than put all of our patients on weight loss medications, maybe we can find a long-lasting solution for these patients and not just throw them on, Ozempics. There's so much that goes into our daily basis when we're talking to our patients. I think what we forget sometimes is that they're making an active choice to come to our independent pharmacies. We are never the most convenient location to. Our hours aren't always the best. We're not open every day. We're closed usually by 6 or 7 p.m. So there's an active choice they made to support you. Now, if they're going to support you doing this, why would they not support you in doing something else? That's always been my thought process. And if we look at it that way, you're going to learn real quick that I'd say 99% of your patients will support you if you have something else going on. And they'll actually tell other people about it. And they'll brag about it because this is my pharmacy owner and this is what they do. That's how I think we've all grown. I mean, I don't know if everyone has different ways. I didn't spend a lot of money marketing. It was mostly just word of mouth and going 1 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8. And then grow that way. You get one family member, you generally get the whole family. So we have to look at it that way. But I always look at it this way. These patients have to eat somewhere. They have to go drink somewhere. They have to get their weight loss somewhere. They have to get all these things. Where are they going? And why can't we be some of those things to these patients?
Great stuff you're doing there. What was the impetus then to reach out and do some of these other things that are totally non-medical? And how did you decide which ones to do?
Well, it goes back to say we're entrepreneurs. So even if we were doing well, I think we would do this. But I think the fact that PBMs have really put us in a corner, for us to survive, we have to find areas of revenue. And if we're not doing that, then you're probably one of the people on the outside looking in. And we're all suffering, we're all struggling. We're still struggling just as much, if not more. But having these other revenue streams is really, really important. It's why they say you don't put all your eggs in one basket when you're investing, right? And that's what you essentially do when you're doing a pharmacy. You're putting all your eggs into this one pharmacy. So you better make sure that you have different ways of generating a revenue, because we knew the PBMs have taken away our reimbursement. So what else can you do to make some revenue to keep that going?
So what are some of those things then? What have you dabbled in, and why? Why the directions you're into then?
So we have a few different things. We own Potbelly Sandwich Shop. It's a Chicago-based sandwich place. I'm sure a lot of people have had that. We brought it to Charlotte here with one of our friends who's in the food business, and opportunity came up to invest with him. So that was one of the things we did. Now, great. When you guys don't want to talk to drug reps, we love to talk to them because they're selling me on their drugs. I'm like, you're just going to get lunch from our place, and I'll listen to the rest of what you're saying. And we get that.
So you got one of those?
We have 3 locations here in Charlotte.
3 of those? No kidding.
We have a Medicare agency that we've started recently. We realized that, hey, we send our patients off to a local agent who comes in and helps patients enroll. But why can't we do this in-house? And I'm learning more pharmacy owners are doing this themselves. We can become our own agents. It is some work to do. I won't say it's not difficult. Or you can hire an agent, work under your separate LLC, and then they can see your patients and they can enroll people. And there's financial gain from that, but also we know we're able to help them better. We have an inside track because we're in the health space. So we know more of the stuff that these health agents out there that have no background in medicine or pharmacy. So there's another opportunity for us to do that. So that's something else. Trying to think of what else. I mean, we have a lot of things that we're, in the works, but we try to find out other opportunities. We're not limiting ourselves to just one thing. It doesn't have to be health related, but if the investment makes sense for us, then why not? Everything trickles back to our bread and butter, as you called it, the pharmacy. But end of the day, I'm not defined by the pharmacy. I'm defined by my whole book of business. And so that's the way we look at it. We have to look at ourselves as business owners. Whether you're owning a liquor store on the side, good for you. Because I'm sure that some of your patients will be happy to go to your liquor store and do all that stuff. So we have to kind of look at it that way. That's where we've always thought in the long run.
So Chi, you have a partner. Do you do anything else with him?
Yeah, we both kind of are independent. Most of the stuff we do together, but I have some stuff I do separate from him and he has some stuff he does on his own. He owns hotels, so that's a big thing on the other side. It's completely foreign to medicine and stuff. That's more of a family business for him that, he was like me, raised in a motel, but he saw an opportunity for it. And don't know what exact percentage, I think 60% of hotels in America are owned by Patel. So
no kidding.
It's something he is into, and it's nice to be able to have someone like that to be able to do it. Because if we're ever in a financial struggle, he has capital on that side or contacts on that side that might be willing to invest in something we're doing. So it just grows your network going outward, right? If you're not just stuck to one genre of business.
Hey, you mentioned the hotels with Patels. That's a rhyme, by the way. You've got to work on that somehow. That's interesting because as we drive down the road and we see something we think owned by something from, let's say, the Indian heritage, we think we're going to see colorful Indian design and stuff. These are, I imagine, well-known chains that are just owned by people that we never see and never think of.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's funny when you're scrolling through Instagram or some of these things, you see these little reels that talk about, hey, the first person who came from India bought a motel and then literally with his friends, instead of going to a bank, they basically borrowed from friends. And that's what everyone did, borrowed from friends for their next venture. And they got bigger and bigger. So the majority of even hotel chains from Hilton to W to Marriott, all these are owned by the franchisees, but the people I know as well. Definitely some.
That's really interesting. I guess I do think about who owns hotels. It's probably usually a group of people to take some of the risk out, or
to be honest with you, it's usually a family. I mean, they're doing very well for themselves. Usually there will be a group. Sometimes there's a group of 2 or 3 people and they form their own LLC and then they have a lot of hotels under it, management and all that sort of stuff.
They might own more than one.
Oh yeah, they all own more than one. There's people who own up to 70, 80 probably, but
wow.
There's different groups of people that own a lot. I'm not in this space, so I don't know too much about it. I know as much as I'm telling you, but there's a group called AHOA, Asian American Hotel Owners of America. And they have a big thing every year, big convention somewhere. And they always have like really big names show up, political or whatnot, because it's a big group, very powerful group with all the money and businesses they own.
That's something. As you say, you drive around town, what other businesses have you thought about in the past? And maybe you thought quite a bit about in the past that you said, nah. Mm-hmm. And what else have you thought about and said, maybe?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think when you were saying earlier, this brings us back to this, put this in perspective. Us pharmacy owners or pharmacists in general are the only business that I could think of where we have to take what someone tells us for our products and service. You don't take an insurance or any type of thing to a restaurant, a bar, to anywhere else, any other business. These guys all have free reign to charge what they want. And if you want it, you pay for it. We don't have the ability. Now we could do that and just be an all cash pharmacy. And there are some around the country that do that. Very envious of these guys and how they're doing it. But for many of us, if we lose one contract of the big 3, we're essentially like screwed if you look at it that way, because it's a big book of business we got to turn away. We're hopeful that the insurance thing is changing in our country. The paradigm of having to have insurance is going, and I see that, but hopefully most of us are around to see that where we're getting more self-pay people coming in and rather of that type of business. When I'm driving around, I see many things that I would like to. I've thought, like I said, liquor store before. I've thought of liquor store because it's the most basic concept. You have rent, you buy inventory, maybe have one person running it, and then you're overselling everything. You know how much a bottle of Tito's costs and how much you're buying it from, let alone go to the next concept is if you go to a club or a bar. And I'm not saying it's easy to run those because it's something completely foreign to us, but that bottle of Tito's is this big. they're charging a shot for this small amount for like 15, 20 bucks in a lot of cities. And people gladly pay for it. When we go out to drink, we don't care about that. We're here to have fun. When you come into a pharmacy to pay a $10 copay and stuff, you question it. So it also goes along with the industry we're in. And are we able to really like grow from it? We're only growing if we're doing things outside of your traditional pharmacy by offering other ancillary services. If you're just filling prescriptions, it's hard because you can't mark the drug up. So it's kind of what I see when I'm driving around. I'm really looking for opportunities that kind of can benefit us, bring value to our patient base with other healthcare services.
Some of that stuff really sucks. We've got a big health insurance in town, and they give people OTC cards, and let's say they might have like $100 a quarter or $50 a year. I don't know what it is, but these people can go to any store they want to, caveat that the store has to be chosen by the insurance company. And I thought, what a good time to let almost the free market help. So let's say you're going to go buy some product, a skin cream or something at some pharmacy, and you know that this pharmacy over here might be a little bit more expensive. Probably not, but that's the image. But it might be more expensive. What a good time to let that person use the card and pay a little bit less at one place, but not get the service, a little bit more at this place, and then get the service. And it's like, how would that affect the insurance company really? Because they've already spent the 50, but they force people even there to not come to the independent pharmacy. They only let them use this card at so many places. And I suppose there's a bunch of games being played, like they get a kickback off of this or that. But it's just sad how much the capitalism is just sucked out of. I mean, it's there. That's why they're making these decisions. But on a micro level, it's just sad how capitalism seems to be sucked out of our bones. Like I was talking earlier, that you feel like you're just an employee for these places.
Yeah. And I've been in the last 2-3 weeks really talking to a lot of people outside of the space who don't understand what we're going through. And that's, I think, the number one thing that we really need to get out there. We all know what we want to see change because it's not fair. It's very anti-American, very steering patients in one place, no level of competition. However, our patients don't know this. When they come to get let's say a copay of $100 item, they think you're making $100. There's no thought process to them like, hey, what does it cost them? And we really try to break it down. Now, we don't go into all that with our patients. We don't have time for all that. But when I'm speaking to different people who are outside, who are interested in this, I've actually started to show them that I don't know if you saw the Mark Cuban visit he just had at the White House, because that was very powerful.
Yes.
You had the governor there. You had 2 independent pharmacists talking, and it's all well and great if we talk. But until you have someone with power who comes in, and Mark Cuban comes in and talks, people listen. And I loved how he said it because he's very blunt, and I'm the same way. Really said essentially like they're just shitting on us. And I think that hits home with everyone I sent it to was like dumbfounded. They couldn't believe that this is how we live our life. This is how pharmacy is. And what is the next step to change it? It's all good to have sorrow and empathy for us, but that doesn't pay our bills. We need to see legislative changes. That's the only thing that's going to help us on this side. But until that happens, we know how the law system works here in our country, and it takes time. We really have to be able to dig deep and survive. And by doing these different ancillary services, that's your way to really, one, build relationships in your community and educate people on what's happening, which is, I'm all for that. Try to teach my students, everyone who comes in, and say, you need to know this before you graduate, because if you don't, that's a problem. And they're not teaching this in school. And that's one of the things during my rotation. I try to teach them about things that I never learned in my rotations. I didn't learn in school about not to rent, about a Roth IRA, these things that they should have learned. So they get the basics of that, and they enjoy that. But there's a lot of things that I think need to happen in legislation for us to be able to have a level playing field.
Our listeners have heard this ad nauseum from me, but I think one of the things the new laws helped a bit is that it starts to take away the smoke and mirrors. And so it might not change much, but at least instead of having to explain something to a politician that's going to take 12 minutes to explain, maybe you can explain it in 6 minutes because some of those DIR things are going to go away and things like that. But sadly, one of the guys on our team who was all eager for some of the changes in Michigan to take place at the first of the year, and I told him, I said, don't hold your breath. I said, I've been here a few times. That might help the vernacular of making it simpler. But he's been reporting all this stuff to this supposed coordinator in Michigan who's like collecting all this stuff. And we're sending him every day now how the PBMs are breaking these new Michigan laws. She basically said, we didn't know it was this complicated and we don't really know what to do with it. We're not really sure how to handle this with everybody breaking the laws. I'm putting words into her mouth. I'm sure she didn't say it that way, but that's how I took it. Like, hey, these guys are so damn big and tricky that we can make all these laws and we still don't know where to start in corralling them.
And that's true, because in me speaking to our representative and senator, they asked me for framework. Do you have any states that have this in framework? And so we shared that with them, that Kentucky does. And so they immediately got to those representatives and have that. So I think that helps them in their world because they speak a different language too. Just like pharmacists speak our own language, they speak theirs. So to have that framework, that might help them as well. I think Kentucky is really leading the charge in a lot of this for the country. There's other states, of course, but I don't know what his background is exactly, but I think they're really helping us in this space. So just be able to get each state. And it's important that every independent pharmacist bothers, say the word bother, but whatever you want to call it, contacts their representatives locally and at the state level and in Washington as much as they can, because they have to listen. That's their obligation. That's why were voted in. And I've had great responses from all the ones that I've spoken with. And, you know, ultimately, if they're all in that and they start speaking and saying all the representatives in all the states are asking for this, then we're likely to see change. We can't just see it coming from one area of the country. It has to happen all over, a collective effort for us to really see this change. And like you said, it's not going to be overnight.
That rumble helps of people talking this way. I remember back, I'm going to say it was 96, maybe late 90s. And this customer came in the store and he had a computer company. And I remember asking him, Chris, what is this web I hear? What are they talking about, this World Wide Web? No idea. This is 30 years ago, basically. And he's like, well, it meshes this and all the people can then contact each other and this and that kind of stuff. I heard it from him and then I probably read it in something the next day. And eventually you pick up on stuff. And it's kind of like the old cliche where you don't realize how much certain cars are advertised until you're in the market for a car. Then it's every ad that pops up is a car. So, oh, that's a car. That's a car. Or you learn a new word and you hear that word. You said, I've never heard that word before. And then the next weeks you just hear that word everywhere. I think that's the same with the pharmacy conversation. The more we can talk and the more letters and things like that. And the naysayers are out there, me included, saying, what's that going to do? If anything, it can help raise that awareness ever so slightly, just like we have to learn about the web and the cars and new words. You have to learn this language also.
I'm seeing that right now. It's probably marketing as well, but sports gambling became legal in North Carolina a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And now everywhere you go, that's all you see, but it's probably because your mind is inclined to see it. So you bring up a really good point there. We have to have these discussions to get there.
Have you ever seen the moonwalking bear? Have you ever seen that video?
It seems familiar. I can't place it up.
It's a psychological thing where they've got like 6 people kind of standing in front of an elevator or something, and they're throwing a basketball around. And, they're just in an average size elevator lobby throwing the basketball around. And the YouTube voice says, I want you to count how many times the basketball has been thrown around the room. And so you're watching the video intently and it's okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then it ends like 20 seconds later. And he says, what's your answer? It's 21 times. All right. Now, how many of you saw the moonwalking bear in the video? And you're like, that's ridiculous. They show it. And sure enough, there's this furry guy dressed up as a bear doing the backwards moonwalk right between all these people. And so you have to back up the YouTube because you swear that wasn't there at the beginning of the video. And sure enough, here's this moonwalking bear. So it's what you pay attention to, of course.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And in all of this, it's really coming down where we are in our place as pharmacy owners, pharmacists, and with PBMs. I don't see it getting very much worse. I mean, I'm knock on wood, but we kind of have to hope for better, but we can't just hope. There has to be action. on every level. And that's kind of the way we look at it. You're completely right. We have to make some noise, and hopefully that noise causes small change, and eventually it causes substantial change for us. And I think we're going to see more of it because it's no longer just us being affected. I know all the doctors I talk to are complaining about things. More of them want to go into concierge. And we know once the AMA speaks up, you get a lot of things being done more so than maybe our associations, unfortunately. But that's just the way it is, right?
I think the one good thing that when you first had insurances involved is for a while there, it helped the average pharmacy owner, because there's no way in hell that a pharmacy's revenue would be as high as it was if insurance wasn't paying for it. You know, it might be a tenth of what it was when people are getting something on a copay years ago. So that was good. And then part of me says, hey, it's a free market and we're not getting paid because we're probably not bringing as much value. But that's wrong, because it's a broken system, because you've got a huge player in the middle not bringing any value at all. So that can't be right. If someone's in the middle not bringing value, then that's not the free market. That's a facade.
Yeah, I think initially PBMs were brought in to basically leverage better pricing for the community and from manufacturers. But what's really happened is the opposite in sense the middleman. PBMs have realized I can control all of these pieces, from the manufacturer, patients, to the pharmacies, to everyone else. And now they do what I say. If it's not on my formulary and I don't get a kickback, then I'm not putting it on the formulary. And manufacturers have had to raise the prices on things like EpiPen, because for them to get the same profit, now that they're doing kickbacks, they have to raise the prices. And it's the opposite of what was supposed to happen. I think they gave them too much power and didn't keep control on the government side. Got at least 3 major PBMs run away with things, and I'm sure they meet and collaborate together. Collude is a word, right? That's definitely part of it. And being from Canada originally, and then having, a lot of family in London, England, I see in other countries, and I have friends in other countries, they don't have these issues. I mean, they have other issues, socialized medicine, but they don't have PBMs. They don't have someone dictating what you can prescribe, what you can get covered. And that's the reason when you go to cities, if you ever go to Mexico, you can get whatever you want over the counter. You don't even need a prescription. It's just amazing to see the level of control we have here. And it's not, for me at least, I don't think the control is there in terms of safety and efficacy. It's in terms of ultimate greed. Like, how can we keep the money in our pockets?
Well, one thing I'm not is an economist.
Sure.
I don't know a thing, but I do look at simple things, the 3 oligopolies of the big 3 in it. I know that Lena Khan with the FTC is looking diligently at this stuff now, but that doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem like you can lose a third of your business that way. I suppose, though, when I look at other stuff, I mean, if I'm a Chevy dealer or something, then I've got one business kind of supporting me. So I don't know a damn thing about it. It just seems that the monopolies don't seem to be good for the patients, much less us.
We're not seeing costs of anything go down. If anything, it's going up. Accessibility is even worse. Prior auths, all this other stuff that is being thrown around is just, it doesn't make sense. I mean, you think and you sit down and tell someone, hey, the doctor writes for something so a patient can have it. We dispense it so the patient can have it. But neither me or the doctor have control over that medicine. It's some guy in a suit or a girl in a suit dictating. It doesn't even know the patient, doesn't know the interaction, but they're saying, if this drug is not making me money, I'm not allowing you to fill it. That's the basics of what it is. There's other stuff, it's convoluted, but really that's what it is. And that is very, I don't know if you want to call it un-American, but not really what we're based on, right? And change should happen. But again, I know I'm not very much into politics and a lot of economists, but I know personally, change doesn't happen without having major power, lobbyist groups and governors and all that stuff come in and say, we need change for this reason. And ultimately there has to be a reason. And usually money is, and now in this factor, the people being hurt the most, almost Medicare patients, and we're even at the baby boomers and everything. I think we should start seeing some change there. But I mean, it's something that we hope to see a long time ago.
Gee, when you and your business partner think about your businesses you're in, or talk about the hotel business or the Potbelly and that kind of thing, you must do some comparing. Is there anything better in pharmacy? I don't mean helping patients and so on. Let me throw this in there. I mentioned that because of insurances, like if insurance is paid for hotel rooms and Potbelly subs, for a while there, they might be paying $50 a sub and only charging hungry sandwich eaters $1, and you can see how that revenue would go up. And that's maybe some of the history of pharmacy, even when the PBMs were in, they're paying, defined fairly, but what we would say fairly. So I know you don't have that in those businesses, but is there anything better in pharmacy, or is this just like a big joke when you think about the businesses, how it's so mixed up?
I will say, if we're talking to just about financials, then absolutely not. There's not one benefit to being a pharmacy. You'd think in owning 6 pharmacies, and I'm not even sure exactly what our total sales are, we'd be profitable. In other businesses, if you're buying, let's say $20 million worth of drugs a year, you think you're not going to make at least $1 million? So look at it that way. Absolutely not, because every aspect of our financials is dictated by the PBMs. Also, who can come to us is a big thing too, right? Not everyone can come because they steer certain people and certain tiers to mail order their own pharmacies and then pay themselves differently for the same medication, same patient, which is already, should be an antitrust. So on the financial side, absolutely not. Personally, I think yes. I mean, we're all healthcare providers. We went into it to help people. Me, I like my flexibility of what I do. I like the fact that I'm not always working in the stores. I'm here in my office, but I'm also able to do creative things because we can create different niches within our own market. So that allows me to do this. I wouldn't be able to do this if I was a restaurant owner or something else. So we have in healthcare, we have the opportunity to do very many things and tie it together with your business. So that's the advantage. But to be able to see it financially is a different story.
You know, it's interesting you say that because, well, in the chains, in a franchise, you're not going to have a lot of freedom to do different stuff, I imagine. That's the one thing. In pharmacy, there's a certain, like you say, even though you're not making money, there's a certain pleasure of thinking these things through. And would I have a podcast talking about subs or hotel rooms? I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure there's a lot of podcasts on hotel management and on restaurants and things like that. I just don't picture it myself. So there's maybe some love for the challenge or the disgusting nature of this. It makes us get creative and think of how to do this and so on. But it sure ain't easy.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. The risk tolerance has to be very high. I can only speak for ourselves. We're putting our life savings into our pharmacies, even as they're not doing well. And the 15, 20 years of work we've done comes down to what's happening right now because of all this stuff. We could probably close and say, we're calling it a day, but we don't want to do that. We enjoy what we do on a daily basis. We want to take care of our staff. We want to be able to provide for our community because we've been doing for so long. I don't know what I would do if we sold our pharmacy. Forget the fact we have everything else. This is what keeps us sane. This is what we come into work every day. And it doesn't feel like work, but those are some things we take for granted sometimes. But I think it's hard to see that right now with everything we're going through on the PBM side. It's just getting worse and worse. So there's definitely some positives on the pharmacy ownership side. But right now it's hard to see a lot of that because you're not able to function properly.
Tell me a little bit about the half dozen pharmacies you have. I know you alluded to it earlier, of maybe that's not a great number right now. We only have one pharmacy. And I've always said the worst thing I could do is maybe have 2 pharmacies or 3, because guess who would probably be the floater? I'd be the guy at all these at certain hours, possibly. If I had 4, 5, 6, 7, I would definitely have to have backup for that because I can't be in 6 places at once. Maybe I could do 2 stores at once or something like that. So I've never even entertained it seriously, and I'm just happy where I am right now. But what are some of those thoughts between multiple and 1 or 2?
I think a lot of it starts with you have to have your foundation, which is at the beginning, your first store, second store, whatever it is, and they have to be running well. You have to have trustable staff there. But I see this in a lot of pharmacy owners where the pharmacy owners are still working behind the bench every day. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong there. But if you really want to be an entrepreneur and grow your business, you're the face of your business. You have to be out there in the community, engaging and doing events, doing lunches, speaker programs, and just meeting people and networking. And you can't do that if you're working your shifts every day in your pharmacy. Now, it also goes the other way. We can't not be in our stores. So me and my partner work shifts in our stores as well. We're, like you said, the floaters when you need someone, or just we get in there just to see what's happening in our stores because if you're out of it for too long, you lose connect with what's actually happening on the ground level, right? So you need to be able to justify the changes you're making at the top to fit with what's happening at the bottom. So that's what we're, with respect to having multiple units, we started out with 1, then 2, and we went from 2 to 4 at the same time. So we bought one, we were building one. And then the other 2 came about because they were in the same town that my partner grew up in here in South Carolina. So we stopped at 6 just because the reimbursement wasn't as good. And really at that point, we wanted to we didn't want to just plant all these flowers and just have them wilt. If that's an analogy, you want to see them blossom the right way and then grow. So we could have been at many other units, and the goal probably still is in the future to grow once things get renormalized, if that's happening or what that really entails, because we still see an opportunity in many different parts of town that we're growing, because Charlotte's a very growing town. But at the same time, it has to make financial sense. And so the challenges we have with 6 are a huge challenge that I think people with 1 don't see, and they're beneficial to not see. Whereas if you complain about someone calling out sick, well, imagine that with St. Patty's Day was yesterday, and how many call outs do you think of that? And so when it's multiple stores, it's tough because independents still only have so many employees, and you don't want to have too many employees because then you're paying them and you don't have the money for it. Your problems are basically multiplied when you have multiple stores. So you don't look at it there's positives to having you better buying power and other things like that. You can move employees, and you could probably, patient knows, oh, I have a location in Charlotte, in Rock Hill, and in these other towns. So great, you're a bigger name. But at the same time, there's also challenges that come with having multiple units as well. So definitely pros and cons.
I imagine at some point you get so big that, I don't know, let's say you own 300 stores or something. It would be out of your thought process even if store 32 and 168 didn't have a pharmacist or something there that day. I mean, it wouldn't mean anything to you because what are you going to do? It's in New Mexico or something. But the fact that you have, as in my thing, 1 or 2 or 3, and your thing 6 even, you still feel that on post St. Patrick's Day.
We're still a small business. We're still a mom and pop shop, whatever, 6, 10, 20. I don't think that's going to change the way we operate ever. If we get to a level to be at that 300, then you're probably going to have what we have in terms of our structure. We already have a director of operations. We're going to have people in different parts of the country. The people who will have all that number is really venture capitalists. I know there's a few out there that fly helicopter around and do that. For them, it's more of an investment, I think, just to have a bunch of them and sell them. So the value of actually helping your community, those are business people doing that. I don't know any healthcare providers who have that many pharmacies. Those are businessmen. They're accountants. They're not even pharmacists who own those things, right?
That's right. By nature, they don't care. And even if they did care, what are they going to do about it? It's just numbers. There's no emotions or feelings behind it. There would be for an owner.
Sure.
And like you say, over a certain amount, you wouldn't be that person.
No, that wouldn't be possible for us at all. And I think the way we've structured things and the way we, we have our meetings and we really talk to our executive team and we go buy things, is that we love what we do. I see a lot of people out who post TGIF and all those things. And I'm like, there's no TGIF for us. Even if we're off, we're working Saturday, Sunday. We enjoy what we do.
There's an old saying that it's something like if you put a bunch of people in a circle and everybody threw their troubles into the middle, that after a while, everybody would take their own troubles back. Golly, Chi, nice talking to you. I'm going to put you into the true entrepreneur category because I think Hollywood has made entrepreneurs as this person that stored up their life savings and sold their dog and did all this and put it all into this and it better make it or I'm going to be living on the streets. And I've never seen it that way. It's looking at the desires of the community and throwing things here and testing it and doing this and molding it and things like that. I think you fit the definition precisely. So thanks for joining us. Great talking to you, and I wish you continued success.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to the Business of Pharmacy podcast with me, your host, Mike Kelzer. Please subscribe for all future episodes.